My name's Argy, and today we're going to be looking at Fortnite's brand new $1 million tournament, and we're going to be seeing just how hard it is to qualify for the event. Now, I'm nowhere near a pro at the game, or even at a competitive level really, but I'm an above average player, with nearly 500 wins, and a kill death of around 2 over the last couple of seasons, which puts me in the top 15% of players. So I'm not really at a level where I'd realistically qualify for the competition, but I just wanted to test myself and see how hard the event is. Now, this is a big deal in the world of Fortnite, as it makes for the first completely open public tournament, meaning anyone has the chance of qualifying, providing they meet Epic's eligibility requirements. But before we dive into the action, let's take a look at the format for the tournament. So, over the course of 2 days, there were 6 qualifying sessions for those in the NA and EU region. The highest score recorded during any of the 6 sessions were counted, and those who had the highest scores in each region qualified for the Winter Royale finals, with 200 from each region making the cut, with a prize pool of 500 grand up for grabs for each region. But how did you score points? Well, as shown on the screen, the format was heavily focused on placement, with top 10 getting a point, top 5 getting a point, and a Victory Royale getting you a massive extra 3 points. However, you could also get points for kills, with 3, 5 and 7 eliminations getting you a point each. One of the most unique aspects of this tournament is that it's a cross-platform event, meaning players on PC, Xbox, PS4 and mobile were all in the same lobby. Similar to the previous pop-up cups, this tournament was different to public matches in that materials were capped at 500 each, with farming rate 40% faster. And not only that, but you were placed in matches with other players at a similar points tally to you. So as the matches go on and your points increase, the level of your opponents increase also. Not only that, but it also includes a feature where each elimination gives you 50 health or shield. Now for the purpose of this video I took part in 2 out of the 6 sessions, but I'll only be going into detail about the one which I scored highest in. Right, so let's start with game number 1, and my initial strategy was to drop pretty early, get a bit of loot and then push for some kills. I was looking to get 1 or 2 points early on and then play for the endgame, which is why I jumped at Pleasant hoping I would get a few quick kills. And as I say that, the first elimination is secured. I then decided to loot the rest of Pleasant, and whilst I'm getting a chest, I hear the sound of somebody nearby. But before I know it, I'm dead. So after the first game, I'm still on 0 points. So next we get on to game number 2, and I really scuff my landing and end up at the house just outside of Risky, but there's no gun, and I get shot at. I think I'll protect myself whilst he's running after me, and try to make an escape through the back door, but again I die. Right, so this game I decide to land at Dusty Divot, which is one of my favourite places to land, and I get into an early fight, except I don't have a shotgun and he does, so I'm at a bit of a disadvantage, but I just about secure the elimination. Shortly afterwards I hear footsteps, so I build a wall and a ramp and I go for the high ground. I quickly take my shotgun out and shoot him twice before pulling out my pistol to finish him off. He gets a couple good shots on me, which I wasn't expecting. Right, so at this point I'm heading out of Dusty Divot and I hear someone in a car. I take a few shots at the player, but he quickly reacts and builds walls around him. Sensing my opponent is weak, I push up high to get a better angle and get a nice headshot on him. And there we have it, my first point of the day. Whilst I'm running to the circle, I see an enemy, and at this point I'm thinking I'm getting an easy kill because he doesn't know I'm there. So I quickly build up behind him, thinking I'll be able to take advantage of the element of surprise. However, as soon as I get up the hill, I realise that he must have heard me, and he's already building up towards me, meaning he already has high ground on me, which puts me in a bad position. At this point I'm quite worried, but I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling that I can manage it. But unfortunately he kind of lasers me, and before I know it, I'm dead. Right, so once again I decide to jump at Dusty Divot, thinking I'm going to get a few easy kills again, and I hear an enemy opponent in the middle. So at this point I'm waiting for him to make a move. I can hear him, I know he's there, but I just don't want to push yet. Neither of us want to make the first move, but I'm fine with waiting for a bit, as I don't have any shield and I don't want to be playing it too aggressively. But then I hear the sound of a turret and I think, nope, I'm getting you before you kill me, but then he kills me anyway. So here we are, I think I'm 4 games in now and I've only got 1 point, which is pretty disappointing. I decide to drop pretty early at Greasy Grove and head towards my usual house. But there's an opponent there and I think he's going to get the chest first, so I know that if I start hitting him first, he's probably going to die. I hate getting killed by that way, but if it's going to be used against me, I might as well use it myself. Right, sometime later I hear 2 enemies fighting at the middle building inside Greasy, and I think, you know what, I'm going to third party this, get some easy kills. I take a few shots, but Bloom is really not on my side, so barely any of my shots hit before he's able to box himself in and protect himself. It feels like a chance has been missed, but I don't let it distract me, and instead decide to push up for the high ground and get a better angle. Right, so I build up high, make sure he doesn't get the high ground from me. The enemy player does well to avoid my shots, and he's able to build above me. And at this point, I knew I've messed up, so I box myself in and reload my guns. I go for the aggressive push upwards, trying to regain the high ground, and for some reason I decide to drop down, which I know I shouldn't have done because I was in a good position. And at this point I'm kind of panicking because I know I've messed up. I'm really weak, and before I know it I've run out of materials and I'm dead. So what, is this 5 games in now and 1 point, and I'm really getting annoyed. So I decided to drop at one of my favourite places in the game, Risky Reels, and make sure I've got a bit of loot and materials before I push the other guy in Risky. But I don't want to expose myself too much, because really if I don't have full shield, I'm not going to be playing too aggressive. So here I am, I'm waiting in the box, just waiting for him to peek, and if he does, I know I've got him with the headshot. He's firing a few shots my way, but I'm not exposing myself, so none of his shots connect. And there we go, easy headshot. So sometime later, I'm running towards the circle, and I hear some shots being fired, and I see a guy who's just got a kill looting. So I take a few shots and get the easy kill. Right, so now I have 2 kills and there's 14 players left, and I'm running to the circle. But I hear an enemy next to me who decides to take some shots at me. We're then in a really awkward position where we're probably going to get taken by the storm, so I really don't want to be fighting this for too long. The guy tries to build above me, so I get him with a nice trap play by putting a cone over his head and 2 walls and a trap on the wall. But I've only got 1 trap, which means he's not going to die if he's got full shield. But I just finish him off with my assault rifle. And there we are, we're at 2 points. However, the storm is starting to tick pretty heavily and I'm running out of health. I think, you know what, I'll be alright, I'll manage it. I wasn't really worried about the storm, you know, I thought I'd make it quite easily, so I didn't bother to use my medkit. I thought it'd be better to save it for later. But it was at this point I knew I'd messed up. That's a really annoying death because I was in a good position to win the game. Right, so the next game I decided to drop at the factories just north of Flush Factory. When I hear an opponent across the next building and decided to take a few shots. However, little did I know there's a guy behind me who decides to take some shots at me. So at this point I'm pretty weak and I think I'm getting out of here and jump pad away. Alright, so at this point we've managed to get top 10 pretty easily. I didn't see anyone else. So that's an extra point. So now we're at 4 points. And by this point, I'm just looking to get the win. So I decided to build myself a base and turtle up. This is a pretty effective scrim technique where you use a cone and edit it, so you can basically see all around you and no one can see you. Now we're heading towards the zone and I'm just looking to get top 5. It should be pretty easy as long as nobody sees me. And I think, you know what, I'm just going to hide inside here. Like, nobody can see me, nobody's going to see I'm there. But just in case somebody came, I decided to put a cone over my head, which just gives me that extra layer of protection. At this point the circle is constantly moving, so I've just got to make sure I don't get caught in the storm, because it's easily done. However, I hear some enemies fighting just ahead of me, and think I'm going to take a few quick shots if I can. However, the opportunity doesn't arrive for quite some time, so I decide to push further forward. I really want a third part of this fight, but at the same time, I know I need to rotate to the circle. I check back just in case of the chance of a free kill and I take a few shots. I'm able to connect with a few bullets, but I can't quite secure the elimination, so I continue towards the circle. Suddenly I hear footsteps next to me, and because I know I'm really close to the storm, I just think, I want to get out of here. I don't want to be caught between an opponent and the storm, so I jump pad away, which is a pretty smart play. But unfortunately, the enemy manages to clip me, which I wasn't expecting. I drink a shield to replace what I've just lost before I build myself up 3 stories high, just so I at least have some elevation. However, getting back to the circle this way, I'm having to get past an enemy, which puts me in a really tricky situation where I have a major height disadvantage. I ramp up, and before my opponent can get a free shot on me, I put a pyramid above myself before quickly editing down. I'm doing everything in my power to avoid the threat of the enemy and the storm. Right, so now me and my opponent are both just trying to avoid being in the storm because it is pushing rapidly. And at this stage of the game, we'll be losing a lot of health if we're in the storm. And little did I know, but I'm top 2 at this point. I've got 0 kills, but I've still got a few points just for placement. Alright, so I do pretty well to avoid the storm and to avoid my enemy's shots. You know, I build pretty well, but I can't get the high ground over him and I end up jumping down. And decide not to build anymore and just hope my shots will be able to finish him off. But unfortunately, he kills me and I finish second. Which is really frustrating because I did get him to 1 shot away from death. Alright, so we get on to the next game now, and I feel a bit of movement in my aim, which tells me that somebody's close. And surprise, surprise, there's a guy in a bush. So there we go. Easy snipe, easy kill. Shortly after, we're top 10, which gets us another point, and I hear an enemy close by. I try to build to give myself some protection, but the position is really difficult, so it ends up building most of my walls and ramps into the floor. The enemy actually leaves me alone, and finds himself next to somebody else, so I quickly steal that kill from him, and focus on the next guy. Once again, I'm in a pretty bad position, the guy's got high ground over me, so I just want to tell. I give myself some good protection, and then try to get the high ground again. Somehow the guy ends up jumping down on me, I don't know where he was, and I think screw it, I'm just going to shotgun this guy. Thankfully it just about works and I kill him, which gets me another point. We managed to get to the final 3, which means I've now got an extra point for that. So I decide to push this guy, but I kind of mess up and end up falling. I do quite well to build up and get above this guy, but I've lost track of him and I think he's hiding. There's a crate nearby which is really tempting me, but I know this isn't the right time to go for it, so I maintain my position. Eventually I drop down and I finally see him. However, I do get caught in the storm whilst I'm trying to finish off this guy, and he's doing pretty well to protect himself because I just can't hit him. And unfortunately I get sandwiched between a DJ yonder and the other opponent, and I die. That's really frustrating because I could have easily won that if I'd have positioned myself well. Right, so at this point I'm thinking I'm just going to go late game every game, so I decided to drop at Flush Factory. Little did I know, but somebody else had dropped, and I get sniped. Right, so next game there's 13 people left, and I see a guy ahead of me and decide to push him. I build up with a single ramp and a wall. He nearly manages to get the high ground, so I put a cone over his head, and instead he drops down. I'm happy to stay in this position above him, but he ends up bringing the entire structure down. And now it's just a case of getting above him and waiting for a shooting opportunity to arise. I can't quite see him, I know he's somewhere under me, I'm just making sure I keep on the high ground and keep myself protected. But he starts trying to break the floor that I'm on top of, and I jump down. And then suddenly we're in a spray off, and for some reason I didn't get my double barrel out, but thankfully Bloom was on my side. So now we're in top 10, which has gotten us another point. But suddenly I just get lasered from behind, and have to quickly react build. I'm now in a really horrible position where I've got miles to go to the circle, and I know this guy will continue to shoot at me if I try to run away. I decide to push him even though I'm on really low health, and do some nice building, but in the end he gets me with an easy shot, and I'm dead. Right, so once again we've managed to get top 10, and I spot an enemy in this building ahead of me. He takes some shots at me, and I go for the high ground. However, before I know it, he's also gone for the high ground and he's above me. I really want to regain the high ground, but it's such an awkward angle. So I just turtle up and give myself some protection. At this point I'm not really worried because I know if he jumps in my box, I'm going to trap him, and I know if he gets anywhere near me, I'm just going to get my double barrel out. He's doing his best to break his way through, but I do well to withstand the pressure. I sense an opportunity to leave, and I attempt to edit my way out of the box, but I fail with the edit twice until eventually I manage it. So I edit myself all the way down, box myself in, and use his time to add some extra shield. I don't think he knew where I was at this point. I know I've got to get to the circle, but I really don't want to get shot in the back, so I wait for him to make the first move. So eventually I hear him leave, and know this is my time. But before I get very far, he turns around and starts building towards me. So suddenly, we're in a build battle. I do pretty well to keep the high ground, and think I've actually got him with this trap, but he just manages to evade it. but I can still hear where he is, so I stay up top and maintain my position. However, the storm is quickly moving in. So I drop down and get the easy kill. At this point we're top 7 and I see a wild bush suddenly running out with another guy following him, and I pull my P90 out and get an easy kill. I then follow the guy who was in the bush originally. At this point I know that if I'm caught in the storm I'll probably die, because it's ticking for a lot of damage. So I decide to leave that guy and just get to the circle. I'm only in the storm for a matter of seconds, but it chunks away a good amount of my health, so I'm just focusing on getting to the circle. However, I know the enemy player is also moving to the circle, so I decide to make the most out of my positional advantage. If I get the chance to take 3 shots at him, then it's an opportunity too good to miss. I take a few shots, but I just can't finish him off. I really want this kill, but he's making it so difficult for me. So I think, screw it, I'm jumping down, I'm getting this kill. I want this 3rd kill for the extra point. It's a little risky, but I'm feeling confident. He turtles up pretty well, but I keep up the aggression. I don't really want to push myself into his box in case he traps me, so I keep just outside of it. This battle is taking a lot longer than I expected, and if I don't secure this kill quickly, I'm going to be in a bad position once the circle starts moving again. So I keep spamming at his walls, hoping a bullet slips through, but he does very well to defend himself. I then see another enemy player moving towards the circle and I take a few shots. But once again I can't secure the kill. So I move back to the original guy, who's actually stopped turtling up now. Suddenly we're both shooting at each other, and once again I don't get my shotgun out and I end up dying, and my decision making has cost me again. The following game I've made it to top 10 yet again and another point secured. I'm doing really well at this point getting into the top 10, I'm just not able to get the wins. Now we're actually at 13 points, which I'm pretty happy about, and I take some shots at the guy below me. But once again I don't want to be getting trapped in the storm, because it's ticking for a lot of damage. I throw some walls down in front of me and to the side of me because there's people all around me, but somehow this guy completely lasers me, and suddenly I'm on 41 health and I am worried. I do pretty well to block his bullets, and all I want to do is get some minis off. However, this guy won't stop applying the pressure. I see him pushing towards me and I think, I'm getting out of here, and try to edit my way out, but because of the awkward angle I was at, I just couldn't get the edit, and before I knew it, I was dead. Right, so at this point I'm dropping at Flush Factory or the place near it pretty much every game, because it's done me pretty well. There's always plenty of loot and it's rarely contested, so I know dropping here is a pretty smart play. As I'm in the back of a truck, I get completely lasered by a guy. I had no idea he was there. I build just about quick enough for him to not kill me. I see a chest and I'm really hoping I'm going to get some minis, but somehow I managed to destroy it with my ramp. I can hear the guy follow me pretty closely, so I throw grenades at both of the doors, but as you can see that doesn't end well and it's a pretty embarrassing death. Right, so now we're at the final game, and at this point I'm just playing for endgame, and I'm using the scrim tactics again. It's not the most exciting way to play a game, but considering this is my last game, there's no point in playing it risky. I hear a guy coming from just beside me, but I can't quite see where he is. He's actually behind me. Before I know it, he's taken over 90 health from me. For some reason I tried to build a wall in front of me, even though it's clearly not possible. If I'm being honest, I kind of bottled it, but without a shotgun in that position, I was always likely to die. So in the final game, I don't get any points, and I end on 13. And you know what? I'm okay with that. I expected it to be a complete struggle considering I was playing against tryhards on PC, but I actually think I gave a good account of myself. Even though I did get wrecked by some really good players. I do believe I could have played a lot better and certainly a lot smarter at times. That game where I died to the storm still annoys me, and a few times I died when I should have built, which is really frustrating. I should have got at least one win in this tournament. But overall I had a great time and I enjoyed playing in a more competitive, scrim-like environment. It made me think about how great a ranked mode would be, as it would make getting wins feel satisfying again. Like when I first started playing the game, getting a win was the most incredible feeling. But by the time you're at like almost 500 wins, it kind of doesn't feel special anymore. I think avoiding hot drops and playing for endgame really worked, as it meant I could loot up and get resources, and avoid the early game of RNG, which I really struggle with. I did have a second attempt, which is on the screen right now, and I made sure I kept to the same tactics for this event. However, I actually did worse. I ended up on 11 points with an hour to go, and I didn't get a single point in the final hour. I found this attempt a lot harder, and I think it's mainly because by then, a lot of the casuals had stopped playing. And with it being the final qualifier in the EU region, it meant that a lot of really good players were playing, and the competition was even harder. It was frustrating to not improve on my previous score, but I think it's kind of understandable. Next time there are any competitions like this, I'll make sure to play in the early sessions, and pray that the lobbies are a little bit easier. Not only that, but I'm currently learning how to use keyboard and mouse, which once I've learned how to use, I think I'll be a hell of a lot better. My editing and building will be a lot quicker, and my aim will be so much better. So, was 13 enough to qualify for the Winter Royale? Well, it's no surprise that it wasn't. In fact, I was nowhere near. 9.2 million players took part in the competition over both regions, so reaching the top 200 is an incredibly hard feat. 28 points was the lowest needed to qualify, and even then there were some people who got 28 and didn't make it. The top 10 in EU all got 35 plus, which is insane. I've no idea how they did it, but it's no surprise that we're all PC players. In fact, including both NA and EU qualifiers, there was only one currently known player who wasn't on PC. That's not to say there weren't any controller players who made it through, as notable controller players like Ghosted and Isa and Camo all made the cut. However, they connected their controllers to PCs, which meant they had the advantage of having higher frames per second, and they were able to play on a lower graphical quality, which would stop them from losing frames during the endgame. This is something console players aren't able to do, which really hinders them. So it wasn't impossible for controller players to compete at the top, but it was a hell of a lot harder. It makes their achievements even greater when you consider there were a lot of previously successful PC players who didn't even make the cut. There was High Distortion, Hamlins, Nate Hill, and even Teef who didn't make it. And a lot of people consider him the best player in the world. So overall, how hard is it to qualify for the Winter Cup? Well, I think we conclude that it's insanely hard. Almost impossible on console, completely impossible on mobile, and insanely difficult if you're on PC. You've got to give major props to anyone who qualified. I found it intense and nervy just watching, so I can only imagine how it felt for them. So, what did you think of the Winter Cup? Was it as difficult as you expected? How many points did you get? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe for more. And I'll see you next time for another video. Goodbye.